Hello, everyone. Everyone good? Is anyone not good? You all nicely have a nice cutie and room and everything like that? Yeah. It's difficult not to have a nice room here, I think. It's a really nice place to be here. And it's nice to see so many old friends. Venerable Dhammaratna, yeah, I've seen you every time I come here. It was very nice. And Venerable Dhammita, of course, is an old friend. So it's very nice to see you all again. Venerable Vimlanyani, I know you as well from Germany, and all the upasikas and upasikas. Nice to see you all again. I'm trying to kind of recognize at the back there. It's a bit difficult, but very good. So it's wonderful to be back in Sri Lanka again. I really like coming to this country. And today, because Rohanta was too involved with discussing profound Dhamma with me, we made this big detour. Yeah, no, I got it wrong. We have to go back 10 kilometers or whatever. And because of that, we got to see large parts of Sri Lanka. Yeah, large kind of extra valleys, all kind of things. So thank you very much, Rohanta, for your kindness. That's very useful. So it's very I think this is a very suitable retreat center, very peaceful, very nice, very good forest, good environment, and very good facilities. So it's great to be here, and so please make good use of it. And making good use of a facility like this doesn't mean that you necessarily spend enormous number of hours on the meditation cushion or anything like that. The most important thing is to enjoy the retreat while you're here. This is what really matters the most. This retreat is going to be a mixture of meditation practice and also suttas. And the idea is that when you read the suttas and you gain some inspiration from the suttas, very often it helps you in your meditation practice. And when your meditation practice goes deeper, then when you hear the suttas, it actually sinks in a different way. You gain a better understanding of what is going on. So it's a very beautiful mutual relationship between hearing the word of the Buddha on the one hand and then meditating on the other hand. This is kind of the idea with these kind of retreats. It's not just intellectual study for the sake of intellectual study. It's actually meant to enhance the practice. So that is kind of just the idea, and the topic for this retreat, as Venerable Nisarno already pointed out, is the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, 37 aids to awakening. And I shall explain to you tomorrow why these are important and how the Buddha talked about these things and what they actually mean and how they are grouped together and all of these things. So we'll come back to that tomorrow again. But basically, they are about practice, and that is one reason why they are so useful on a meditation retreat. Today, I'm going to talk just a little bit about meditation practice. And I know you have already seen a video about meditation. I'm going to add a few points. I actually have no idea what's on that video, but I'm going to assume I know what's on the video, and then I'm going to add a few points to those assumed points that were on that video. So it's all a bit dodgy, but we'll see how things work out. So that's where we're going to start out, and then tomorrow we'll start on the suttas tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or whenever it is. So one of the things about meditation practice which always stood out for me when I started reading the suttas in particular is that you see in many places, you realize that the beginning of meditation it's not something that you just sit down and you start doing meditation straight away. Meditation requires a certain preparation before it becomes possible. And this is something you see again and again in the suttas. You read suttas about meditation like the Anapanasati Sutta. And the Anapanasati Sutta, it gives you instructions about what you do before you start watching the breath. And we'll come back to that later on, because this is the Anapanasati Sutta is one of the suttas we're going to have a look at later on. But some of the most important information is right there in the prerequisites that are required to actually enable you to watch the breath properly. And one of the most important aspects of those prerequisites is the idea that you have to establish mindfulness first of all. First of all, you have to establish mindfulness. Then you watch the breath. And what I think one of the mistakes that many people do when they come to meditation practice is that they sit down and they start watching the meditation object or doing the meditation straight away without really establishing mindfulness first. Such a common problem, I think, in meditation. So please try to avoid that trap, because if you fall into that trap, the only way that you will be able to follow your meditation object is by using willpower and using force and all of these kind of things, because your mind is not ready. If the mind isn't ready, the only way to watch the meditation object is by using willpower. So make the mind ready first of all. Have that mindfulness. And once you have the mindfulness, the ability to watch the meditation object is automatic. Because that's the idea of mindfulness. You're already present. You're already here. So because you're already here, all you have to do is turn the attention to the meditation object. And there you are. You're doing your meditation already. And it's not just the Anapanasati Sutta. You see the same thing also in the Satipatthana Sutta. In the Satipatthana Sutta, it says that you meditate. One of the qualities is that you are satima, and satima means you have mindfulness while you do the Satipatthana meditation. In other words, you have to establish this quality beforehand, and then you apply that mindfulness to the 4 different areas of Satipatthana practice. But you have to have it first, otherwise it doesn't really work out. So please keep this in mind. So what I'm going to talk about now is very briefly how to help you establish that mindfulness. This is probably the most important thing. Once the mindfulness is properly established, then the meditation is in large part automatic. You just have to sit back and enjoy the ride, as they say here. Just kind of, with you and the breath kind of riding into the sun, not the sunset, but into samadhi, whatever it is. So how do we do this? And you probably heard on the video yesterday, the first thing that I always recommend people to do is to make sure that you enjoy the meditation, that you don't force yourself too much, that you don't sit with too much pain. The whole idea of a spiritual path is to add something to your life, to enhance the quality of your life, and not to subtract from the quality of your life. And far too many people around the world who practice Buddhist meditation, they see it as a chore, as some work that they have to do, something that they actually don't really like at all, but they should do it, they know they should do it, and because they know they should do it, and because they think it will give good results in the future, they will get a good rebirth if they do this, then they practice it, even if they don't enjoy it. And that, to me, is the wrong approach to meditation practice. It should be enjoyable. And especially if you are a monastic, it is even more important, because you have given up so many other things. If you don't enjoy your meditation, we haven't got very much else. So it's so important to get to that point where you actually, at the very least, you relax, and you maybe have a little bit of happiness, etc., coming up in a meditation practice. And what this means is that we need to remember the Buddha's middle way of not torturing the body unnecessarily. And sometimes that means that you sit in a posture that is comfortable for you. You've got a few chairs at the back there, that's wonderful, yeah? So please use those chairs. Then you can move. Sometimes you can sit on a chair, sometimes you can sit cross-legged, sometimes you can lean against the wall, sometimes you can do whatever else is required. And there's not a competition in sitting cross-legged when meditation practice. It's really just against yourself that you compete. And the idea is to be just right, so the body kind of disappears and the body is no longer important for you. So please do that. And if you feel that your knees and legs are getting sore, or your back is getting sore as you practice, please move. Please change your posture, because otherwise it's just going to be too difficult and too hard. And I think this is such an important piece of advice. It doesn't mean that you should move all the time, because that also is disturbing and not so good. It means that when it becomes the pain becomes obsessive, your mind goes back to it again and again, that is the time to usually move. So please keep that in mind, and then you will have a long, happy life as a meditator. Otherwise, by the end of this retreat, is anyone here who is new to meditation practice? Everyone is really experienced. Okay, good. So at the end of the retreat, you're going to give up on Buddhism, you're going to throw meditation out of the window and become a Muslim instead. Yeah? Now that, we don't want that. So that's because the Buddhist meditation has so much potential. So we want people to enjoy this for as long as possible. And if you give up on meditation because it's too painful, it's such a waste of an opportunity. So try at least from the very beginning to, at the very start, sit comfortably. And the next thing to do is then to learn to relax 100%, yeah, and just to allow the body, allow the mind time to really relax. And some of you will come from very stressful backgrounds. Some of you have been working very, very hard, and sometimes even monastics can work too hard, especially if you're abbots, with hard work at your monastery, etc. And sometimes we need just time to relax into a retreat like this. So please take lots of time. Don't expect to kind of get to the meditation object straight away. And sometimes it can take even a day or two before you kind of really let go of the past and allow things to settle down. And one of the most important things to be able to do that is to be patient. Allowing things to settle down, not trying to force it to happen against its natural kind of proclivity or natural inclination, but allowing things to settle down all by themselves. And the only way to really do that is to be patient, to sit back and wait and allow the mind gradually to calm down. This is such an important thing, again, also to make this work. And one of the things that one of the nice things about looking after your body at the very beginning of the meditation to make sure you're comfortable, one of the kind of additional positive things with that is that it is a sense of gentleness and kindness towards yourself. So in a sense, if you think about your body and you look after yourself in the right way, you're already bringing the right kind of attitude into your meditation. Because this idea of being gentle and being kind towards yourself and to all other beings is so important to have the right kind of mind attitude for the meditation to work. A mind that is hard, a mind that is not gentle, a mind that is going to force yourself or whatever, is not the mind that is going to have success in samadhi practice. Samadhi mind is a gentle mind, it's a soft mind, it's a mind that has compassionate and kindness for all beings, including yourself as well. So by being kind to yourself at the very beginning, you're actually encouraging the right attitude. And you take that attitude with you into the rest of the meditation. When you calm down, when you let go of things and you allow everything to settle down, you bring that attitude into that, and then you have the kindness combined with the patience, allowing things to settle down stage by stage by stage. And this is really the most important thing to do at the beginning of the meditation retreat. For some of you, this is going to happen more quickly because you already have a life that is fairly quiet. For others, it's going to take more time. So just look at your own mind, how much time you need, and allow things to settle down. And that may mean a little bit of walking meditation. It may mean, whatever. You have to find the right balance. And as you do this, gradually, you find that your mindfulness becomes more sharp. You get into the present moment. The past starts to fade away. Your work and your family life starts to fade away into the background. And there comes a point when you have enough mindfulness that you can start to use your mind in different ways to enhance a little bit this process of giving rise to mindfulness. And one of the things I want to talk about maybe now is just a few ideas on how to reflect on meditation practice so as to enhance the process of mindfulness arising here. And one of the very important, this is certainly true for lay people, but it's also true for monastics sometimes, is the idea of giving priority to the spiritual life, making the spiritual life the most important part in your life. So one of the problems, I think, with the mindfulness movement is that a lot of people who practice mindfulness for obvious reasons, they practice mindfulness for the purpose of enhancing their ordinary life. So you go to mindfulness course and then you use that mindfulness to perform better at work, or to be a better parent, or maybe to be a better child, or these days they even use it in the military to become a better soldier. That's really I think bad way of using mindfulness. But anyway, so you use mindfulness in a way to enhance your other life. And the problem with that is that if you do that, it means that your other life is actually what is important. And mindfulness is secondary. Mindfulness is just a support for the rest of your life. So what that means, because your rest of your life is more important, is that when you sit down in meditation practice, the thoughts about the rest of your life will have a tendency to interfere in the meditation practice, because they are, after all, they're more important than the meditation practice. Whatever is important to you, that is where the mind will tend to go. So the whole system is set out for restlessness, is set up for the mind kind of going in the wrong direction. And I think this is one of the great weaknesses of that system. But of course, the majority of people will not be on a very deep or profound spiritual path. They want to have an ordinary life and they want to use spirituality to support that. It's only natural. You can't really expect anything else. But for those of us who are more interested in the spiritual path, for monastics and also for lay people who are really committed to the Buddhist teachings, we need to do something more than that. And one of the ways of doing that is to turn this whole idea upside down and to remind ourselves that all the things that we do in lay life, they are not the final purpose. The final purpose is the spiritual path. And whatever we do outside of that spiritual path is actually done to support the spiritual practice, to support the mindfulness, to support the meditation and all of this. So when you remember that, when you remind yourself that even your family life, your work life, if you are very busy as a monk, as an abbot of a monastery, and all of these kind of things, or maybe an abbess of the monastery, whatever it is, remember, you do all of those things. They are part of your spiritual practice. You do them in such a way that when you come to your meditation practice, it supports how you apply your mindfulness and how you live your spiritual life. And that is getting things the right way around. So what that means is that when you go back and you live your ordinary life, or whether as a monk or as a layperson, what it means is that you live that life in such a way as to improve your qualities to the maximum, so that later on these qualities will then enhance your meditation practice. And then when you come to your meditation cushion, because all of these other things are there to support your meditation, you're less likely to think about them. Because why are you going to think about the supports? Now you're doing what really matters. All that other stuff is just there to kind of help you out with what you're doing now. So you put that away, and instead you focus on the meditation instead. And sometimes people think that this is a very cold-hearted way of living your life because your family, etc., they all become like just supports for your spiritual path, and it becomes very self-centered. But actually it doesn't really work like that, because if you live the spiritual life well, the way to do that, of course, is to be kind to the people around you, whether that's your family or it is your workmates or it is anyone else. That kindness comes out. So actually it helps in both areas. It makes you a better monk or a better layperson in your general dealings with society, but it also makes you more able and more having the right attitude when you come down to sitting in meditation practice. So this is a very, I think, important way to kind of integrate everything, integrate spirituality into all aspects of life, and then as you do that, actually everything starts to support this path of meditation practice and mindfulness in particular. So please try that, and then things actually start to become so much more easy. As with many of these things that you often see in the suttas, and that many kind of teachers might describe, perceptions that you have to develop and all of these things. Remember, it is not just about thinking about them once or hearing about them once. You have to think about these things again and again and again, developing them as a perception in your mind. And as you do that, they become powerful, and you can use them for your meditation practice. This is also true for this particular perception. Remembering to get the priorities right. Remember what is really important in life. And as you do that, gradually it starts to become more of a force in your meditation practice. As you do this and you practice in this way, mindfulness gradually improves. And as it does so, there's always the problem of the mind wandering, so we need quite a few kind of skillful means to avoid that. And one of those skillful means you find in the Bodhiraja Sutta, in the Majjhima Nikaya 131, Bodhiraja, one auspicious night or something like that. And in that sutta, it says that you should not kind of go back to the past, atitang nanvagameya, something like that, and you should not have expectations about the future. So you should neither go back to the past, nor should you go into the future. Instead, you should have a sense of direct, clear seeing into the presently arisen phenomena. The Paccuppanna Dhamma. And so And this is such a beautiful little thing here, the idea of giving up the past and giving up the future. And my teacher, Ajahn Brahmali, sometimes talks about the two heavy suitcases you're carrying around, one being the future and one being the past. And it's a very nice idea, the idea of heavy suitcases. These are burdens that we carry around with us, and it's so nice to put them down. But how do we do this? How can we put down the past and the future in a way that actually improves the mindfulness even more? And I will just give you a couple of ideas of how to do this, because sometimes we need those skillful means to actually improve the practice. When it comes to the past, one of the most important things that we need to do is the past is often, when we have like remorse for something or we have regret over something, very often it has to do with other people. So one of the most important things that we need to do is learn to forgive the past. And this is such an important thing. If you look around the world, people very often have enemies in their lives. And when you have an enemy in your life, you're going to have a big problem in your meditation practice. One of the things as serious Buddhist practitioners, we can't really afford to have enemies. So whenever there is a problem somewhere in your life, you need to forgive, you need to let go, and you need to allow it to be. So how can we forgive the past? It's easy to say forgive, but it's not always so easy to do. And I'm going to talk much more about this later on, because I think it is one of the fundamental things of Buddhist practice that is so important, this idea of forgiveness. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite suttas in the Anguttara Nikaya. I talk about this on every retreat I do, and some people afterwards say, can't you get some new suttas? I heard you said many times before. No, if you never get angry, then you have understood this sutta. And I teach this sutta every time I do a retreat. I teach this sutta, which is about 6 or 7 times a year, and I still enjoy listening to it, even then. So it's nice to hear these things many times, and every time you hear it, if you have the right attitude, it goes deeper in here. And but anyway, I'll just give you just a little bit about that before we get to that sutta eventually towards the end of the retreat. And one of the skillful ways of forgiving other people is to remember the Buddha's teaching of non-self. And what that actually means in terms of, in a practical application. And one of the things it means is that what we are not independent entities that are able to guide ourselves and do what is right at all. What we are conditioned phenomena. Do you feel like a phenomenon? You don't really feel like it, because we don't feel like it because we feel as if we have the sense of self destroys that. The sense of self says, I am in charge, I can do what I want, I can choose this way or that way. But actually, that's very much part of the delusion of a self. And once you start to look at yourself more clearly, you will start to see how conditioned you are. You are really conditioned, and this is the problem. And the more you understand the degree to which you are conditioned, to which other people are conditioned, you understand that when other people do bad things, when you do something which isn't quite right, the reason they are doing that is not because they want to do it. They do it because they are more or less forced to do it by the conditions that work on them. And once you understand that someone is forced to do something that is against their best interest, that leads to their own harm and suffering in the future, we all want to be kind, I think, deep down, because we all know that kindness is good. Kindness feels good. We all know that. But sometimes we can't help ourselves from actually doing something wrong, because the conditioning, the force inside of us is so strong. So once you start to realize that, and you look at people around you and you see them, they may even be doing something bad against you, instead of getting upset with them, you understand they are this conditioned phenomenon. They have no choice. You happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and their conditioning is coming together in a certain way, and they do a bad thing, and then the badness comes out of them. They are like a robot. They are like a red light. And the simile of a traffic light is actually a very useful one, because when you come to a traffic light and the traffic light goes red, do you normally get, if you are really in a hurry, on your way to work, or no, you're on the way, you're on the way here to this meditation retreat, even more important than going to work, Anyway, so you're really in a hurry, and just as you are in a hurry, the traffic light, you come around the corner, the traffic light goes red. So what do? Do you really get angry with that traffic light? Do you get out of your car and kind of shout at the traffic light? You evil traffic light, why do you get red? You knew I was coming around the corner. I'm in a hurry. You knew that, and you get red. And you give it a good shake because you're angry with the traffic light. You don't do that, because if you did that, you get locked up in some kind of mental asylum very quickly. People think you are completely nuts if you do that. And there's a good reason for that. And the reason for that is because the traffic light is run by a certain program, a certain electronic circuit, or certain inputs from the outside that tells it when to go red and when to go green. So it doesn't make any sense to get angry with the traffic light. So you might get a little bit upset, you might get a little bit frustrated, but you're not going to get really angry. Yeah, you're going to stay pretty cool if it's a traffic light. And of course, the point is that people are like traffic lights. Yeah, people sometimes go red. Sometimes they go green, sometimes they go yellow. And because of that, when you remember that people are like traffic lights, it takes out so much of the problem, so much of the thing. They are these robots pre-programmed from the past, following their conditioning, following the personality that has been laid down over many, many lifetimes perhaps. And because of that, they haven't got much choice. And when you do that, you can allow compassion to arise instead of getting upset and angry with them. It's a very beautiful way of dealing with the past, a very beautiful way of forgiving, because it goes very deeply. And you can actually, using this method, you can forgive any kind of wrong from the past, whether it is coming from you or is coming from someone else. So try this out and see if that can be a support in your meditation practice. And again, these things often take time, but over time you should be able to use that to your benefit. Then there is the other side of the story, and that is letting go of the future. And the future is also not that difficult to let go of, again, if you think in the right way. And the right way to think about the future is that, of course, the future is uncertain. But not only is the future uncertain, but the majority of what we take to be our future is the five sense world. Yeah, it's everything that has to do with the five senses, our family relations, has to do with our work, has to do with what we're going to enjoy in that five sense world. Almost our entire life are lived in the five sense world. From the moment you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, all we really do is being immersed in the five sense world. But the problem with this five sense world is that it is so inherently unsatisfactory and problematic. We know that anything we attach to in that world, sooner or later, is going to be taken away from us. Yeah, it is so obvious when you think about it. It's such a hard lesson in many ways, but if you take it on board, it's also so incredibly obvious. And that is why it is such a powerful way of thinking about the future. The five sense world, very often, it goes wrong in this very life. And if it doesn't go wrong in this life, it is certainly going to go wrong when you pass away eventually. Yeah, and of course death is ever present. Death is always a possibility, could always be just around the corner. And when you approach death, the last thing you want to do is have too many attachments in the five sense world. It is always going to let you down when you die, always going to be problematic, always going to be out of control. It's going to be an enormous problem for you. So the five sense world is something, if you think about it in the right way, I'm going to look at another sutta which I always read out on these retreats to talk about more about that world. Because it is so problematic, there basically is no future for you in that world. That world is basically uninteresting. All you have to think about that world is that it's going to let you down eventually. Eventually those things that you think about, eventually those things that you are attached to, and if you think about them, it means that there's some degree of attachment there, otherwise you wouldn't think about it. Yeah? It is going to let you down. And the more you see that, the more you withdraw your interest from that future in the five sense world. You stop thinking about your family. You stop thinking about the enjoyments and all of these kinds of anything that comes through that five sense world, because that is not where you find real satisfaction and happiness. So what that does, it means that you turn your mind around, you turn your mind inward instead of allowing it to go outside into something which is inherently problematic, you bring it inside of yourself instead, and you find that refuge within. And this is the refuge the Buddha talks about in many places, like the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, where it talks about the Atta Dipa, and the Atta Sarana, taking refuge in yourself, taking refuge in the Dhamma, and that is precisely doing things like Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing meditation. So this is a very simple way of dealing with the outside world. And sometimes I like just to say to myself that I have no future. Usually that's a term of abuse, so you have no future, you hopeless idiot. But in this case, actually, it's something very positive. I have no future. I have no future in that world of the five senses. There's nothing there of real interest. Let it go. Yes, you may have a future in the spiritual life. That's a very different kind of future. It's not a future that you're attached to in the same way, that you think about in the same way. So it's not so problematic. But I have no future in that world. So if you have no future, you let go of it and you allow it to be here. And then you come back to the present moment. So those are just two fairly simple techniques to think about things. It is often very useful to have some simple techniques to think about things. You can try them out if you like. Remember that these are just suggestions. These kind of ideas, they may work for some people, they may not work for others. So you try them out and see if they work. If they don't work, find something else that works for you. And then gradually you're heading in the right direction. So this is how then gradually mindfulness becomes stronger and stronger. And once mindfulness is really strong and you're able to watch the breath, there's one last ingredient that you need to get into place for this thing to really come together nicely. And that last ingredient is the joy and the happiness in your meditation practice. And this, you need to somehow give rise to that joy and happiness, because that is when the spiritual life really becomes powerful and very useful. And that is where we start to turn away from the worldly happinesses. Because if you can find more happiness on the spiritual path, then the worldly happinesses start to lose their meaning and purpose and all of these things. And this is one of the things I will talk more about later on as well, how to give rise to a little bit of joy and happiness. But just as a kind of a basic thing to do while you're on this retreat is to have a sense of metta for all your companions who are here, and just to remember that all the people who are here are really good people. Nobody would be here if they were a bad person. What's the point of being here if you are a bad person? You're going to just torture yourself. You have to keep 8 precepts or 227 or 311 or whatever it is precepts, so many precepts to keep. What's the point of doing this if you are a really bad person? Unless you are some kind of infiltrator, but I don't think so. There's no infiltrators here. Because of that, people here are really good people. So remember that. These are people who are trying to live well for themselves, also live well for other people. And what a wonderful thing it is to have a group of companions, spiritual companions like this. It is so rare to find this in the world. So remember that big picture. And when you remember that big picture, then the small little irritations that you may feel every now and again, you can put them to one side. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because the big picture is so beautiful. So have a sense of metta for your companions. And as you do that, the whole retreat, the whole 9 days will flow along so much more nicely as a consequence. That's all I want to say about that. So I was only going to give a very short talk, but that's pretty much half an hour gone already. So let's now do some meditation together and see if we can use these ideas in practice. Okay, so as always, just start off by closing your eyes. Once you close your eyes, you screen out so much of the world, and for that reason you can feel your body so much better. So start out by just feeling your body, making sure you are nice and comfortable, that the posture is right at the very beginning. And then make sure you take a lot of time just to relax properly. And it doesn't matter how much time this takes. What matters is that you really allow yourself to relax, that you let go of any stress you may have, and that gradually you allow the past to fade away a little bit, because only when mindfulness gets to a certain level is it really possible to do the meditation practice. So give yourself a lot of time just to sit back, to be patient, to have an attitude of gentleness and kindness towards yourself, and you allow yourself to feel that relaxation, which is so delightful in its own right. And just stay with the body for quite a while before you do anything else. It's so important to allow the relaxation to be really deep. And very often, if you relax the body in the right way, the mind also comes along, because the mind and the body are so deeply connected to each other. So just by focusing on the body initially and having a sense of gentleness and kindness towards yourself, if you wish, you can even thank your body for all the services that it has provided for you for all these years. Thank your body for being there. And this is just a way of giving rise to the right kind of attitude. And as always, the path is about skillful means. So build up those skillful means and then be patient and allow things to relax. And in addition to focusing on your body, you can also focus on anything that helps you to calm down. And sometimes you can just feel the peace in a beautiful place like this. And just by hearing the sounds of nature, or just feeling the peace around you, already that can be enough to calm you down. So whatever helps you to lean in the right direction and allows the mind to find peace, place your attention there and allow the mind to become peaceful as a consequence. And as you do this kind of practice, remember that you are not really in the driver's seat. The idea here is to be a passive observer, a bit like the passenger on the train. You're looking out the window, and you have to accept whatever is happening outside. You're not deciding what is going on. All you're doing is observing. So when we use the mind, the using of the mind is only just a nudge, giving it directions to attend here and maybe attend there. But the vast majority is just to sit back and allow things to be, and allow gradually, the landscape to become more peaceful, more calm, and more happy. if you find yourself feeling tired, it is quite natural at this point of the retreat to be tired. So just allow it to be. Don't fight the tiredness. Instead, allow yourself to rest. Allow the tiredness just to be there. If you find that the mind is still restless, that you're thinking about all sorts of worldly things, remind yourself that there is no real happiness to be found in that world. There's no future in that world. The future is on the spiritual path. So don't think about those things where there's no future. Just allow it all to go. And we are now coming close to the end of the meditation. But before we come to the very end, just take a few moments just to take stock of what has happened. If you do feel a bit more peaceful now, a bit more at ease, ask yourself why that is the case. How does the meditation actually work? What are the perceptions you develop? What are the things you let go of? And how does it all happen? Okay, yeah, so that's the meditation for tonight. So please have a good night's rest, and then we'll see you again tomorrow.